I'm just a sexy Kurt. I'll make your ankle hurt. It's glorious.
There's a middle rope springboard body press onto Kurt Angle, and they bounce, not go through, bounce off that table. Shawn Michaels eating an angle slam into the steel post.
Unbelievable this. It's Shawn's big moment to be the babyface and to show off how good he is at manipulating that crowd.
He's kind of like ready to live for the match, but like die to win it.
Hello and welcome to the Best Match Ever series, where we delve into the anatomy of a professional wrestling classic. Michael Hamflett, screen's a bit of a giveaway, but what have we got in store for us today?
We are going to WrestleMania 21, Sidge. Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle in front of 20,193 at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, April 3rd, 2005. A quick bit of context on WrestleMania 21, and then obviously on their Feud as well. The buy rate was just over 1,090,000. Notably, 500,000 up from that year's Royal Rumble and 70,000 up from the heavily hyped WrestleMania 20, where it all begins again, Madison Square Garden, all that sort of stuff. It was also able to outdraw WrestleMania X7 and stood as a company record until WrestleMania 23 and the Battle of the Billionaires. A big stage show set up by two big title matches and the crowning of two new champions at the same time in John Cena and Batista. But that context is important because this match between Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle, while not necessarily being credited for drawing the house, had a lot of meat in the build that made you think, actually, is there something else that people want to watch here? Do they want to see this potential wrestling classic? So it had its own pressure, I guess, on its shoulders to form part of what WrestleMania 21 was and maybe why people were going to buy in. Shawn Michaels had eliminated Kurt Angle from the Royal Rumble with Sweet Chin Music, and then later in the match, Kurt Angle returns illegally, raging, smashes Shawn Michaels to bits and throws him out as well. He then appears on television and says, it wasn't just the Rumble, I'm fine about the Rumble. It was actually because he's been holding a grudge since 1996. He won the gold medal with a broken freaking neck in wrestling, but all people wanted to talk about was pro wrestling, and the best in the world at that time was Shawn Michaels. All he would hear about was the Iron Man, Shawn Michaels, and zip lines and being the best wrestler, and that rankled him. And now, here in 2005, he knows he's the best ever of every kind of pro wrestling, and yet all he still hears about is how Shawn Michaels is the greatest of all time. That kicked off a chain of events where the two, because Raw and SmackDown's brand divides were quite well held to at the time, a series of invasions between the two brands where the violence escalated. Shawn Michaels was dressed as a security guard for one of them with a false moustache. Kurt Angle turned up on Raw to beat up Shawn Michaels, and the match was basically set with Kurt saying, I'm the greatest, and Michaels responding with, well, if you think you're the greatest, you've got to beat the greatest on the greatest stage, WrestleMania. Angle then, in his ability to be something of a wrestling polymath, kind of uses the stakes to then get funny with it as well. He says, well, if you're the greatest of all time, I'll just do everything you've ever done in your career on the road to WrestleMania. To that end, he decimates Marty Jannetty in a TV match so good that Marty Jannetty gets hired. He brings out...
For like the 12th time.
Yeah. He brings out Sensational Sherry to sing Just a Sexy Kurt, and then ends up losing his loaf and putting her in the ankle lock, forcing Shawn Michaels to have to get revenge on her behalf, obviously. And he even snaps on Josh Matthews, the commentator, just for Josh Matthews daring to say, Shawn Michaels is really good, isn't he? What? And he just goes mad at it. It's become something of an obsession with Kurt. This ties together the whole 1996 obsession, but it's brought Kurt's levity to all of this as well, and the match is set.
Yes, my take on this build might be hyperbolic. I think this is literally one of the best stories WWE has ever told. Rumble to Mania, just one of the best stories that they've ever told. And what I love about it is that they took one of the greatest of all time in Kurt Angle, and I don't know if this was the general idea, but it was certainly the byproduct. How can we make a storyline? How can we build a storyline and build a conflict and illustrate to the entire wrestling world why Kurt Angle is one of the greatest of all time? This is the composite Kurt Angle program. You get the classic pro wrestling match. You get that intense animal, and that word will become very, very relevant and repeated throughout this review. But you also get that unbelievable, where did you come from entertainment machine. Every time I think about this build, I just think about Angle's shoulders.
Yeah.
Like his dad dancing. Like,
he's wearing the Shawn Michaels shirt, but he's crossed out HBK.
Yeah. And he's got the shoulders going like this. I'm just a sexy Kurt. I'll make your ankle hurt. It's glorious.
Yeah.
I howled with laughter the first time I ever heard that. I thought it was so inspired. And this is when you get the switch, that light switch of Kurt Angle, one of the most versatile performers of all time. You are completely enamored with him and think he's the funniest guy in the world. And then light switch goes off, that bread mist descends, and you think it's going to break Sherry's ankle like within seconds. The way he goes through those modes is absolutely unbelievable. And context is important here. This is post 2001. 2002 is one of the most bleak, desperate, end times are here, the good times are gone, in WWE history. There's obviously some good stuff in and around everything in pretty much any promotion. 2003 ain't much better. 2004 might be one of the worst years. We're talking 2019 bad, 2018 bad. 2005 obviously led to 2006. That's how, time works. And 2006 was another wretched year. 2005 quietly was pretty damn excellent, and WrestleMania 21 was 2 great world title matches away from being one of the greatest shows of all time, and they were kind of quietly on fire creatively. John Cena, the feud with JBL wasn't much, it just felt like a formality to get out of the way, but the Batista Triple H stuff was excellent. Coming up with something as awesome as Money in the Bank and how much that has endured was a great idea, and it showed that there was a collaboration, because it was Jericho's idea with Gewurz, but it was Vince who said, no, we need something visual with the briefcase, and there was a sense that it wasn't quite that sort of dictatorship creatively, that Vince was still willing to listen to people. So I was in a good mood in 2005. Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels, you could believe, because the brand splits were adhered to, that they would never interact.
Yeah. Very much so.
Kurt's on SmackDown, Shawn's on Raw. Shame. You wouldn't even put them together. And then that moment in the Royal Rumble where you're like, they're going to Mania with this. They are going to Mania with this. It was the closest WWE had ever came. Now, these Survivor Series gimmicks and the war between the commentary teams and across Raw and SmackDown, this was so unbelievably refreshing and almost life-affirming that, my God, WWE, for possibly the first and last time ever, considering they don't play friendly with other outfits, and yes, this TNA stuff's not going to be as good as this, the closest they ever came to booking a full-on inter-promotional dream match. You need a lot of latitude at the time, and context is important, but this felt like something you weren't meant to see and something you couldn't believe you got to see. So a fantastic idea. Discipline went a long way towards making it happen, and the execution from the first bit of physical contact at Royal Rumble couldn't have been any better. This was professional wrestling magic.
It's something of a theme on Best Match Ever, isn't it? Where the wrestlers raise the stakes, whether it be in the build or in a certain storyline detail or whatever, and then the match has to pay that off. We've talked on this podcast about Cody breaking the throne or the Rock and Hogan's big moment together. If either of those things are then followed by a match that just cannot live up to the expectations set, the whole thing looks worse in hindsight. Both wrestlers look worse in hindsight for all of it. So it takes the confidence to be able to elevate those stakes, knowing that you then have to deliver something that pays those off. Yeah. And you're totally right as well. It did one of the rare times in the Monopoly era where WWE actually within their own little bubble captured that sense of a match that you didn't feel possible. Yeah. 2 full-timers.
I know.
Shawn Michaels as well. A real achievement that they managed that.
And this is the ultimate dream match when it dawned on you as well.
Yes.
Oh, they could do this. Why wouldn't they have done this,
We didn't think it possible until you were showing it. Yeah, a glimpse of it in the Rumble.
This was a time as well, obviously, things have changed, and they have changed drastically, where another benefit of this and why it endures is the idea of the dream match. The actual professional wrestling match that just is going to be great, and you're going to watch it because it's great. Yes, there was a lot of personal conflict in the build, and they built, as I said, one of the best storylines in my opinion ever. But ultimately, just the idea of a great match happening in WWE, almost for the sake of the quality of the match at the end, was so rare, so electrifying. You just didn't get to see it that often as well.
Yeah, the two men being willing to have this be their story, not belts, not main events or anything, but it's like the feeling of who's the best is not something WWE markets very often, so it was nice to have that promoted as well. Shawn Michaels enters first, and again, we see the WrestleMania Goes Hollywood set. Again, it lends itself quite nicely to Shawn Michaels, who would be one of the early, WWE cinematic wrestlers, as it's become the norm now, but it wasn't when Shawn Michaels was doing it. And he's got this nice red, black, and silver gear. And theoretically his best, but I have to admit, my memory of the first time I watched this match is like a minute and a half in going, why is he not taking the chaps off? Why are the chaps on? This is the first match ever with his baggy tights. And watching this with the benefit of hindsight, you know that's maybe to hide the odd knee brace or a little bit of extra padding. Shawn Michaels is starting to wind down, which feels unbelievable by the time you've gotten to the end of this one. Kurt Angle enters next. It's the usual "you suck" chant, but there's some hard zooms on his face, and you see him in that full, like that wrestling machine mode as it would become kind of known as. I'm not going to use the TNA nickname because Kurt Angle has said himself he doesn't like that name. But that's the name that we kind of would associate with the Kurt Angle when you see in those eyes. He's ready to go. He's kind of like ready to like live for the match, but like die to win it. Like it's just sort of this is all or nothing for him. The two of them come together. Jim Ross like already has like noted something with his eloquence that few other commentators could nail. Kurt Angle is an elite mat wrestler and he has the medals to prove it. Shawn Michaels is a catch-as-catch-can stylist. I'm not sure I've ever heard as good a description for the type of wrestling Shawn Michaels does, because he's the guy that straps flashy stuff onto like technical prowess and isn't that foreshadowing.
And he was like at a much lower level, obviously. I mean, doesn't get any higher than Olympic gold. No. Like Shawn was like he was an accomplished amateur high school wrestler as well.
Yeah, many are, and I guess that sort of goes by the wayside when you become pro.
Yeah.
But we'll see Shawn get to fold it back in. The two of them come together, and they take there's a pregnant pause before they lock up, and it's as if every little inch matters. Neither of them wants to take an extra step and even give an arm in case the other one snatches it, whatever. Then they back away. Then they get close, and Michael seems to seize a moment and just slaps Kurt Angle hard across the face. That leads to Angle charging at him with like an amateur takedown. He rolls Shawn Michaels around the ring with a waistlock. Shawn can't escape.
Like a bear, like an animal.
Like a bear. They are rolling around the ring, and Angle's got the waistlock on tight. Shawn has to cling to the ropes with both arms in order to force a break. Angle looks really, really pleased with that one, and Michaels almost with the eyes acknowledges, all right, the slap is cheeky. Here's the real quiz. Let's get to action. So they lock up again, and Shawn Michaels grabs this tight side headlock. It's a one he's always liked, and it often involves, you've seen it a million times in Shawn Michaels matches, it's the move that ultimately results in the bigger opponent sending him to the ropes and them to go for their first exchange. Not today. He turns that headlock into a takedown, which Angle is a little bit shocked at, and tries to roll out with some pinfall attempts, but he cannot break the hold. Angle grinds his hand into Michaels' face, like they're sort of up into his jaw again to try and break it. There's big Kurt Angle chants as the fans want him to break out when the two can go again. Shawn Michaels is not letting it happen. He cuts off those breaks. He puts on yet another headlock. He again drags him back down to the canvas. He's holding on this headlock as tight as possible. Kurt Angle suplexes out of the hold to counter, and Michaels holds on like his life depends on it. He's selling the impact of the suplex while still holding the tight headlock.
It was a bit of an Angle thing where he would lose those early exchanges because the idea is, well, the best version of Kurt Angle is he's really pissed off.
Yeah.
And he's an animal. But this is the best execution of it ever for me because Shawn's different gravy. He's an unbelievable pro wrestler. He knows, like, they almost risk boring the crowd with how much they want to emphasize this beat and how much it's going to inform the drama later on and inform Angle's absolutely outstanding performance at the end there. It takes a long time, this entire sequence. They do risk the crowd drifting off. Not for the first time, pretty much the only time that Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. It has shades of the Bret match, this.
Yes.
Of like, just keep it on, attritional, I don't care, I need to ground this animal. That is the story of this match. In order to do that, I need to do it for 2 minutes on end. And this, of course, infuriates Angle.
Yeah, they managed to get back to a vertical base, and the separation is finally created by Kurt Angle, so he thinks. He's now angry. He rushes at Shawn Michaels with a shoulder block, and what does he do? He gives that shoulder away, so Shawn Michaels is yet again able to grab the headlock. The two of them this time, because there's such power in Kurt Angle's legs as he's trying to push out of this, they hit the ropes, and then they skid back into the side headlock, and at this point you can feel the aggression on Angle selling, as well as Shawn wrenching on the neck. Eventually, they both get back to the feet. Kurt Angle pushes Shawn Michaels back into the corner, and the two finally break for good this time, with Kurt Angle selling the cauliflower ear. Shawn Michaels has out-wrestled the mat wrestler to such an extent that he's given him that traditional amateur wrestling injury. So Kurt's like tapping the air a little bit. Angle, like sort of as the two come together again, does the drop step into a tight waistlock. Shawn Michaels again able to counter. He's got one of his own. He snaps him down with a side headlock. This time, Kurt Angle goes for the hair, goes for some hard, stiff elbows to Shawn Michaels' face. He's getting vicious in how he does it.
The elbows are great in this.
Oh,
those
they're
back
so
elbows.
Full in the face. They hit the ropes again together, but Shawn Michaels has still got the measure of Angle because he hits this beautiful beautiful high hip toss. And seeing that Kurt Angle is once again in the middle of the ring, but he's trying to guard his neck now, Shawn pivots and he tries to wrap his legs around Kurt's waist and then instead transitions to a short arm scissors. Yet again, Shawn Michaels is frustrating Kurt on the mat because Angle's left the arm free.
Yeah, there is a little moment in here as well. It's just a little second, and that's all it needs. Just a little second of, is that going to break down? It gets a little bit shooty here, like a little bit, are they cooperating? Just a little shade to it that I really, really appreciated.
And I think in the modern age, we see certain wrestlers that have perfected this as a craft. And not that you can tell, but there are some times when they try and mimic the idea that they're jockeying for position or whatever. I think you're right to highlight that because at this point, you can't, it doesn't feel like the jockeying position, but they may have just worked together on the smoothest way of making it look real. And you kind of believe that in Shawn and Kurt and their care for the craft as well. They do sort of like repeat this kind of sequence a couple of times. And I want to like put over Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler here because they're both brilliant in highlighting how Shawn has surprised both them, but also Kurt Angle with his ground game instead of favouring the fast pace. It's almost Kurt trying to play Shawn's game and like running into trouble, literally, as a result. Eventually, Angle is able to power Shawn out with a jackknife, but Shawn rolls out of that into a sunset flip. In Angle's confusion from the sunset flip and having to kick out, Michaels again just grabs the head because, again, Angle's left it free. Angle smashes the mat and screams, "Damn it!" Honestly, at this point, you're saying about the fans risking getting bored. No. I could have watched this for hours at this point. It's like this game of chicken over this headlock has become something that the building has gotten in on.
You get the hum now. You get the buzz. You get the buzz now. It's not like the struggle's actually like they've been sold on the idea of this is a professional wrestling struggle. Like it's so great how they dial up the volume.
At this point, Angle's snapped. He's absolutely lost it. He bullies Shawn into the corner, and there's just these horrendous like right forearms that just feel like they make pure connection with Shawn's cheek. It brings the referee in to have to separate the two of them, and ultimately because they're so tightly bound, because Shawn is like so laser focused on keeping Kurt locked up with him, because that's what's worked in the match so far. The referee has no choice but to part them. It's not Shawn Michaels letting go himself. It's the referee getting in the middle of them. And because then obviously when Shawn has to back away, Kurt just clubs him in the back of the head. He's back jumped him, but in a legal setting, obviously. He lunges for the ankle because he's now realised, well, I'm going to have to try and get him early. But it's the kind of the first sight of it in the match, and as a result, the mere glimpse of Shawn in the ankle lock gets an enormous pop, and the wrestlers must feel good about knowing what's to come later on.
It's the entire thread.
Yeah, Shawn flails, but is able to counter out quickly, and then does the Mick Foley clothesline where they both tumble out to the floor. Kurt Angle is selling on the mat, and Michaels considers his options and decides to clear the announce table. But then after he's cleared the lid and moved the monitors and the microphones and all that, he actually changes his mind, rolls into the ring to break the count and just continue the match instead. In that space where Shawn Michaels has hesitated whether to do it or not, Kurt Angle has been able to take over, and he drills Shawn again with some really stiff-looking European uppercuts. And now Angle sees that the table has been cleared and looks to angle slam Shawn Michaels onto it. Shawn counters that. They have a bit of a chop battle on the floor, and it somehow morphs into Shawn Michaels eating an angle slam into the steel post.
Unbelievable this. They're obviously saving the table for something else that will follow imminently. It's a nice misdirect, this.
Yeah.
But the visual is one of those where you sort of fill in the blanks in the theatre of your mind, because you're definitely suspending your disbelief here. You're extending the latitude. You're completely lost in the flow of it. It looks like it's been bent into a U shape around it, and you know obviously Shawn has done a remarkable job, like remarkable for 3 years at this point, or just shy of 3 years at this point, of telling you my back is mangled, it's always going to be mangled.
Jim Ross is on it.
Jim Ross is on it. Just to remind you, the back is mangled. If you can weaken it, like it becomes 50-50. And it's like, it's always the thing that just stops him from being. Obviously, I think he was like more relaxed about having titles and all the rest of it in the second chapter of his career. But in storylines, he's still amazing. He's still a showstopper. He's out wrestling Angle here. That back will always get him. It was such, I want to say, an easy dramatic device, because that would suggest that he didn't sell it brilliantly all of the time, but an inspired one, the logical one.
4 years of a career that like almost retired like a 33-year-old.
You're going to believe it every single time.
You're never going to not hold on to that.
The magic trick is working every single time.
You mentioned animalistic earlier on. This is Kurt's the proverbial shark smelling blood, because he knows that and sees it too. He aims his kicks and punches at Shawn's back.
Sorry, I want to step in again here. Does this incredibly ugly kick?
Yes.
That I love this kick so much. Describe the kick.
It's like it's a video game up kick where the two sprites are like built that kick hits the wrestler in the gut so perfectly. They have this like beautifully animated cell.
Yeah.
Sean's lying down and he does it to his back.
Yeah.
I've not seen many kicks like that in real life because it shouldn't work.
I love how deliberately ugly this kick looks because he's pissed off and he's selling it.
It's opportunistic, isn't it?
It's opportunistic, and it's just like, I need to do this. I don't have the time to process how to do this with the correct technique. I just want to hurt his back because I'm really pissed off. Really, the teeth are clenched. I'm really pissed off that he's completely outclassed me at the thing I'm meant to be good at. When the story of the match is I'm meant to be better than him.
Yeah.
And he's better than me at my game. This won't do. I'm going to do that through the ugliest kick.
And, you know, to your point, he kind of just goes up the gears now. It's what started as like a meanness and a nasty streak is now him trying to stay level-headed and use his wrestling acumen to take advantage of this situation that has come his way. He's like hitting it. He drills him with a couple of suplexes. He's doing the pins with like the arm across the face.
I love that.
You know, he's angry with Shawn Michaels, but he knows he's in control. And what does he do in response to the headlock? He locks him in a tight leg scissors around Shawn's side. He's squeezing on the lower back. He's trying to use his physical dominance and strength to now punish, obviously, the glowing red spot that is Shawn's back. He's pulling the hair a little bit for good measure as well. Shawn is ultimately able to wrestle out of that, and at this point, the crowd are cheering for both men. They're in seemingly each time a wrestler makes a comeback from some like terrible situation they're in, the fans back them. Yeah. There's no point where they ever pick a side. They pick the side of the guy that's trying to come back from the beating they've taken, which I think speaks to the quality of the offense of the both wrestlers here.
I think in later years when you do the advertised dream match, it does become that performative where enjoying this match so much that we're just going to both these guys. I don't hate that chant or nothing like it, but it just speaks to the storytelling and how well they've built this, that even though they're just overjoyed that the match is happening, they very much fall into the role of, well, we need to cheer Shawn, look at him. Yeah. We need to get like behind Shawn, look at him.
And Shawn kind of, I think, sees that in how he's selling when Kurt's in control here. Angle whips Shawn into the corner. Shawn takes the Ric Flair, and the Shawn Michaels bump at this point, goes upside down all over the shop. He's looking really prone, and Angle captures him on the way back in with a stunning overhead belly-to-belly suplex, which again, Shawn tries to take the flattest of flattest back bumps so he can sell the impact of this move, and it's as if Kurt's done it on purpose. Shawn looks in real trouble. Kurt Angle applies this particular kind of camel clutch where he drives the knee directly into Shawn's back while pulling the chin up, obviously. Again, he's like taking every single chance he's got to mash his face, to pull the hair, to just reveal that while he's now working the body part like a Kurt Angle would, he's still pretty annoyed about how he was embarrassed earlier on in the match. Shawn now kind of as the undying babyface that does have the fans, is able to fight out with the help of the crowd. He kind of like leans on their support, but he gets drawn into a fist fight and goes for another slap. He thinks it'll work again just like it did in the opening. But he's not learned that that's not the answer. Kurt Angle sees red once again and runs at Shawn with a clothesline that might as well have been a Bron Breakker spear.
Yes.
It is absolutely wicked.
It's like, again, it's that lack of technique. This isn't the perfect match as you'd expect from two really technically accomplished wrestlers, and it works so much in its favor as matches with a struggle do. But this clothesline it's almost as if he just throws his armpit and his pec right in his face. Like, he's just like, the red mist is gone. Again, he hasn't got that laser focus of what area to target or what, like, part of his body to use almost. He's just so pissed off. Yeah. And Angle's like, the three eyes. The intensity that he has is completely off the charts, almost unparalleled in pro wrestling history. So again, you completely and totally believe it.
It's the point at which now Angle is obviously feeling like, well, he's had his comebacks. Like, there's a sense that Angle feels like any opportunity Shawn had is now taken care of because I am going to beat this man. I'm sort of physically dominating. And to that point, he wrestles him in the corner and he attempts to construct an over-the-top belly-to-belly. Shawn is able to push him off, and like, we know he's got the flying elbow drop in his arsenal, so he goes for it, as again, opportunistically, because he just finds himself planted on the post and Angle's in the ring. Jim Ross questions the wisdom, and he's right, because Angle's simply not beaten up enough to take this move. He instead rolls out the way. Shawn Michaels misses, and how does he land a missed flying elbow? Again, right on the back. So again, he's still in real trouble. Kurt Angle is able to recover the first of the two and primes him for the Angle slam, and he's kind of enjoying the ceremony at this point, but he's waited too long. Shawn Michaels is able to counter out and backdrops Kurt Angle to the floor to get a little bit of recovery time. He does he sort of like manages to like pull himself together in the ring and then flies from the turnbuckle to the floor with a crossbody, which the replay catches, gets Kurt Angle right in the face.
They couldn't have been more perfect as
It's
the botch.
a knee. Like, you don't want to contact somebody like that, but it suits this match.
Oh my
so
God,
much.
I know. Accidental blood elevates any match, but when the story of this particular match is Kurt Angle is portraying a wild animal who was really pissed off. A wild animal, when they are wounded, is at their most dangerous. Honestly, they might have even done this on purpose. It's so perfect. Can you cut my lips so we're really telling the story? I'm a wounded animal cornered at my most lethal, frenzied, and dangerous here.
He is drooling blood for the remainder of this match, Kurt Angle.
It's got that like mimosa, orange and blood and saliva, orangey
thick,
cocktail. Oh, it's awesome.
You can tell he's almost trying to like loosen it and get rid of it, and it just keeps flowing out of this. Obviously, this cut that he suffered. More of a subtle blood cut, but super beneficial to the match, as you say. Shawn tries to get back into the ring, and then Kurt Angle, for the first time before I kind of started to hate this spot, goes for the German suplex off the apron, and the fans go insane for this, suddenly remembering that there is a perfectly clear table there if Angle is able to do this.
This version of Kurt Angle is so pissed that he's getting embarrassed on the biggest stage at his own game. I can believe in that moment that he wants to do it. Like, can you imagine? It would hurt him
to the
just
audience,
as much.
by the way.
Yeah, they're biting on it. They are totally biting on it. I can believe in that moment, even on repeated viewings, that he's so pissed that he'd be willing to like smash the back of his head open just to hurt the other guy just as much.
Shawn Michaels, I want to put over as well, because he's selling his back as he is holding onto the ropes to try and not be suplexed. It couldn't feel more real. The two wrestlers couldn't be more locked in to the story they're telling. And once again, the referee having to try and break them up and stop this from happening, because the ropes are technically a break for Shawn Michaels, gets in a little bit too close, and Shawn Michaels turns his head, sees that, and mule kicks Kurt Angle, knowing that it's a referee blind spot ultimately. So Kurt Angle's taking this low blow, again gets booed. Like, the fans are enjoying this wrestling match and they want to see this spot to the extent where they're willing to boo the babyface for doing a heel move to get out of trouble. Shawn Michaels boots Kurt Angle. He's a bit selling dazed and confused on the floor. Kurt bounces back towards the table. And again, I keep using this word opportunistically. Shawn Michaels simply sees a chance and does a middle rope springboard body press onto Kurt Angle, and they bounce, not go through, bounce off that table and just roll to the floor. This couldn't have felt more real as an act of ridiculous sports entertainment athleticism if it tried.
I loved, again, just everything seemed to be working in its favor to just have that very, very slight sense of, oh, that wasn't perfect. These imperfections across this match are great, because this is a remarkable match in and of itself, but it just feels like something WWE wouldn't do. In WWE, you'd get this big bombastic table wreckage. Yeah. Just, it doesn't play along. It wants to be a pro wrestling struggle, this match. It wants to be a struggle.
Even the construction of it, it's like the opposite of a sort of I'm not digging him out in particular, but it's the opposite of like a Shane McMahon laboured elbow from the thing, isn't it? The whole thing exists for that big boom moment. Yeah. And this is just, we find ourselves here, and here's the environment around us.
He's like, oh God, he's on the table. Yeah. He hasn't draped him on it. No. He's just like, oh my, he's on there. Right, I need to do this now. Bing. Yeah. Awesome craft.
They're both obviously out for the count, almost literally. They both roll in different sides of the ring at 9 out of the 10 count. Again, Angle, like, the camera catches him for the first time, truly. That like sort of long, stringy like line of blood coming from his mouth as he roars. He looks like a monster. Yeah. And now they're both kind of fighting back to their feet at the same time. It's where they started pretty much at the start of the match 15 minutes earlier. But look at what has happened to them for the 15 minutes they've endured. Michaels wins the fist fight and goes back to the chops that have kind of been successful from this match. He hits his flying forearm, and again, there weren't many quite like Michaels at timing. Like, when he's on fire, the forearm leads immediately into the kip up, but he sells and he waits and he waits and he waits, and the pop is thunderous when he does the kip up. He's still selling the back, obviously, but Angle's back there with him, and like Kurt Angle for Shawn's comeback, bumps and feeds like few you have ever seen. He is racing into those punches. A cardio machine, as like kind of we always knew he was. And Shawn looks like he's got Kurt here, and he seems to have like got about 50% of the audience back from that low blow as well. He slams Kurt, and this time Kurt is down enough for the elbow. He's actually obviously put him in a position to hit it. It's a beauty as always. Shawn leans on the post in a way very similar to the WrestleMania 14 cell with the broken back. He wants to fire up Sweet Chin Music, but it hurts him to have to do it. He tunes tunes up the band, but Angle catches the boot and locks in the ankle lock. Once again, the crowd go nuts for the reveal of the ankle lock. Shawn Michaels is once again able to roll through, but Kurt, learning from Shawn, does not let go. He holds on to the ankle lock. Shawn's sort of scrambling around for the ropes. He's mid-ring. Jerry Lawler screams for him to stretch his hand. It's Ricky Morton stuff, the way the camera's shooting it. You are trying to pull Shawn Michaels' hand to the ropes at this point. He grabs the ropes and some fans boo. Kurt Angle's absolutely fuming that Shawn has been able to counter it, but again, loads up another angle slam. Michaels...
Sorry, I just want to step in. There's a bit of this chain, the sequence here, like the roll through is like, still got the ankle. It's got all of the awesome power and gravity of a nature documentary when you can see an actual predator just like be a predator in that moment, and it doesn't matter how quick the prey is.
Yeah.
Like, they're a predator. They know they are trained to do this. It's like Kurt Angle's put on this earth to really, really hurt people, because he kind of was. It's just that gasp of, oh, they're dead, they're dead, they're dead. It just doesn't happen in any other submission sequence, really.
No.
To this level, anyway. That heart-stopping nature documentary of, the deer's dead.
Well, and Shawn getting the ropes is a bit like when the deer jumps onto a rock.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're gonna get away. Predator is the perfect word, by the way, because Michaels, in trying to counter out of the angle slam attempt by Kurt Angle, has accidentally fallen into one of Kurt's traps. Kurt knew he was going to counter out, and what does he do? He's left the leg free. Yeah. So Kurt is once again able to get the ankle lock.
It's a nature documentary, this bit.
Again, Shawn Michaels tries to roll through with a sunset flip that has given him success earlier in the match, but again, Kurt Angle just counters all over again with the ankle lock. Shawn, playing now like the wily, experienced face, does the one thing he knows is always his kill shot, and as the two-part ways, he hits an instant, sudden sweet chin music. But Kurt is able to grab Shawn's leg. The crowd are going nuts at this point. He gets an angle slam, finally having tried to get it in the ring throughout the match. He gets a 2 count. Fans are in a frenzy, and neither seem like they're willing to die. Angle pulls the straps down. He's got the straps down. He pulls them up just to pull them back down again, and now he's doing the Shawn Michaels thing of going for the moonsault. And Jim Ross is there to note this is kind of a callback. Angle always said he's better than Shawn ever was, and he's not going to miss his aerial move, is he? Yeah. It's a Kurt Angle moonsault. Yes, he is. That puts him obviously in a lot of trouble. Michaels finds himself on the other side of the rope, so goes for a moonsault of his own, but he's so knackered he takes long. That opens the door for Kurt Angle to do that running, leaping angle slam that he does off the top rope. Angle goes for cover. Michaels kicks out. Kurt Angle screams bloody murder, literally so, into the canvas, which at this point is just a mess of his blood, sweat and tears as he powers himself back up. Shawn Michaels is dead selling. He's out on the mat. Kurt screams in his face. He's screaming at Shawn, saying that I'm better, but it's almost like he's trying to tell himself that rather than Shawn. And that's the window. It's a tiny window. Shawn just drills him with the sweet chin music. It's that full extension of the leg. The visual of this is an image that has been used in various WWE media and literature over the years to illustrate the perfect sweet chin music, because that is, from such a tiny gap, the perfect extension. And to your point, a 2.9999 for the ages, to such an extent that some of the audience think it's a 3. And there's a point where with the referee it looks a bit like a 3, but the fans are too invested at this point to worry if that was close or not.
So what happens here as well, Kurt is just starfished on the mat. He's just been knocked clean out, very briefly in the story of the match, with their flush on the chin, the sweet chin music. The way Shawn covers him, he looks almost scared of Kurt Angle. Yeah. It's like, can I get away with covering this animal that I've somehow sparked clean out without him even noticing? It's like he tries to just crawl. He's looking scared that he's going to move.
Peering over Kurt's chest.
It's like, is he going to move if I do this? And he's like, just drape it over. And just it's almost like he's scared to pin him in case his arm gets ripped off from the jump scare. I have to pin him because I have to win this. But he might notice. Well, he might notice and wake up and kill me if I do this.
Well, and what a way to illustrate what we're going to get to next. Yeah, because it's the fans think it's a 3, and it's not a 3. And Kurt's got the rolled shoulder, but the two of them are ultimately still lying there prone. But it's obviously Shawn Michaels who's got the advantage of the two because he's hit the sweet chin music. Angle is laid there, theoretically dead, but just with one shoulder up. So Shawn gradually gets back to his feet, and Angle seems out for the count, but he's the one now playing possum. He roars back into life. Jerry Lawler says this as I am typing it, that Kurt Angle is like a cinematic horror movie villain going for that one last kill. He is absolutely screaming as he locks on this ankle lock and wrench. Shawn Michaels simply wasn't prepared for it. He's not got the sort of wherewithal that he previously had to keep rolling through. So all he can do is scream for his life. He powers back up onto his good leg. He rolls through and he kicks off, but Angle won't let go. Nothing is ever going to... It's
a nature documentary now.
Nothing
it's in the jaws of the beast.
That's it. Like, nothing will separate the predator from the prey because it's primal at this stage. Jim Ross on commentary, amazing as always, screams how, but Michaels can't tap. He won't tap. Not at WrestleMania. So the stage has now been set. The one guy that won't let go versus the one guy that won't submit. Something's going to have to give. They're mid-ring. He's reaching. Shawn Michaels is selling this. Is absolutely fantastic.
It's unbelievable.
He's not on the ground reaching for the bottom rope. He is reaching for every single rope in the history of the universe. He'll take a top, a middle, a bottom of anywhere in the ring. Kurt's sort of like moving him around because it's just a struggle at this point. But he cannot get a hold of one. Seeing that Shawn Michaels just will refuse to die, he's Mr. WrestleMania and they're at WrestleMania. Angle drags him to the canvas and he slaps on the dreaded heel hook variation of the move. It's important to note that nobody has ever escaped this version of this ankle lock at this point. And the fans at this point sense that it's doom for Shawn Michaels. The noise is almost like a collective, oh no, because the roars turn to dread as Shawn Michaels is locked center ring. Angle, again, the film villain, I guess, that Angle has turned into at this point is Jaws, because he's just dragging him further and further and further into deep water with this increasingly...
He's like wailing, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a tight lock that he's got on him at this point. He's got his other leg round Shawn's leading leg, so Shawn seemingly can't move. The camera goes in hard on Shawn Michaels' face. He is screaming. He's constantly like fighting with himself. He's pulling at his own hair. He's trying to find another way that he can experience a different pain than the one he's in. The announcers...
He's clenching his lip, biting his lip, but in a way that the audience can register.
Yeah, 100%. Again, the announcers are both saying, hey, it's Mr. WrestleMania, he can't tap. Shawn, the arm goes up to tease the tap.
Right. The noise this crowd makes when he does the arm straight in the air, it's like... It's a shriek. It's real in that moment to everyone watching. That is the magic. That's the theatre. It is real in that moment to everyone watching because they either, it depends on how you want to describe the noise, or it's either total hope that the hero can prevail, or if it's slightly not on that level of like that histrionic feeling, it's, the match is going to end. No, it's not. He's got his hand up.
And that's it. So the hand goes up, and as you say, it's teasing one thing or the other. But Shawn, just master of his craft and crowd manipulation, lets the hand drop and then clenches his fist. And you think, he's going to hold on. How can anyone hold on in this much pain? It certainly feels the longest anyone's been in the ankle lock, let alone the heel hook variation of it. And that, when it seems as if all hope is back, it is in fact lost. Not from the high position, but from just the clench. Shawn Michaels has no choice but to tap out. He taps out, he agonizes over it because he is literally in agony. Shawn Michaels has been defeated at WrestleMania by Kurt Angle. Jerry Lawler says, I think that ankle might be broken. Angle, like drenched in sweat, still trying to like spit the blood away and just like get his breath back, pulls himself up and celebrates. The camera lingers on his face as he screams to the world, he's the best in the business, he's the best in the world, he's the best at WrestleMania, he's the best. And I mean, you've watched this, who we argue.
Yeah, I know. That the suspense in that finishing sequence is absolutely magic. There is no other word to describe it. It is magic because if you strip away everything you've seen, and of course it's the wrestling thing, if you can get them early, you've got them for the rest of the match. They are in, they being the audience, are in that spell of suspended disbelief. In that moment, you think a guy is struggling. He's going to have his leg broken. And it's pro wrestling, it's theatrical. You'd put that move in MMA, it's a 2-second tap because I don't want my ankle broken. That's how it works. And MMA in a lot
ankles don't break in increments.
Yeah, I know. You know what I mean? Yeah. UFC, the boom has kind of undermined to a degree that sort of wrestling and how believable it is. But then if you just work the theatre of it as magnificently as Shawn Michaels, and Kurt Angle on offense as well, does an unbelievable... It's Shawn's big moment to be the babyface and to almost show off at how good he is at manipulating that crowd, at selling, which he was always phenomenal at. But Angle's ability to just create the impression that he is in the process of willingly and like just breaking someone's ankle just to prove that he's the best. His face is amazing as well. It's two blokes lying down, one of them applying a bit of pressure to the ankle, or enough so that it looks believable, but not enough where, you know, it's actually really, really hurting or, you know, endangering the opponent. It's just two blokes lying down. Really, I don't like reducing things generally in life.
Because you can do that with
anything.
anything.
You can do that with anything, but ultimately it is two blokes lying down, and then the crowd are living and dying with it. That noise when the arm goes up is like very few things you've ever heard in a professional wrestling ring.
Literal conduction.
Maybe great wrestling is in fact like good. Like one of the reasons to watch professional wrestling after all. And another little anecdote is that you would think that this person, a legendary pro wrestling figure, given how checked out he was and dispassionate he was in the mid to late 1990s, wouldn't have even seen this match because it was just a job to him. Mm-hmm. This is Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 21, Bobby Heenan's favorite match of all time. But you'd think, advancing in years, is at the peak of his star power in the 80s. You might think he'd be one of those, well, they're doing too much, too many near falls. And that was his favorite match of all time.
I love, you told me that little tidbit, and I love that because it's so great that somebody known and having the reputation for being amazing at every aspect of pro wrestling can admire two wrestlers that I think you could also attach that tag to.
Yeah. In
Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels. They are Bobby Heenan guys in a way, because Heenan was one of the few that seemed to have it all, and these guys on their day, very much the same. Of all the legends to put this one over the top, I like this Bobby Heenan.
Yeah. I have subsequently, I'm a bit down on, mostly relative to first chapter Shawn Michaels, and then the Michaels stylistic family tree, which is a bit different at the AJ one that I talk about a lot, of Shawn Michaels to NXT Gargano, and you get indirectly resentful of Shawn and this melodrama and the shock kick out faces and just how corny it can sometimes be, which is weird because I fell in love with this Shawn hard in the 2000s, and I'll tell you why. I think I stopped watching after WrestleMania 18 to the point where I'm not even checking in on the websites. And then, as wrestling does, if you're in this for life, usually one way or the other. In HMV in probably 2000 and late 2003, 2004, whenever, long enough for the DVD to have appeared and for me to have been out for about a full year, at least, like a full year, if not longer. And I hop into HMV and I think, you know what? I think I might see what the wrestling's doing. I don't know why. And I pick up a copy of, I just look at the DVD box for WrestleMania 19. Mm-hmm. WrestleMania 19, having gone completely dark. And I look at the back and I think, what the f***, Shawn Michaels is back? What?
It's the All the Stars Are Here card, WrestleMania
and I'm
19,
like,
isn't it?
What's happened to wrestling?
Yeah.
What have I missed? And because Shawn versus Jericho, I'm very much in that, God, great matches are what this is all about, and I wasn't getting enough of them. And I was thinking, it's a shame Tajiri's not in one of these world title matches. Shawn's back. Who the hell's Brock Lesnar?
Yeah.
If he's at the bottom, world title match, he must be a big star. It's like, couldn't believe it. It felt like I time traveled or something. But I fell hard for Shawn. People lived and died for him on that night.
I'm kind of grateful we do this podcast and talk a little bit about a match like this, because I am guilty as anyone of just kind of like putting Night as Shawn on such a pedestal that it kind of indirectly and inadvertently knocks so much of the post-2002 to 2010 Shawn, and I share your belief about some of his negative influences and the like. But as a result, it is very easy to ignore just how there were levels to his game that nobody could get near in this particular era of WWE as well. There was a reason why, even in 2010, when Shawn Michaels, 8 more years into an improbable return, at an age that was a very respectable one to retire with an entire second legacy, there was a reason why. It wasn't just, what a legend, I'm going to miss Shawn Michaels. It was like, this show will miss Shawn Michaels. These big nights will miss Shawn Michaels. WrestleMania will miss Shawn Michaels because of matches like this one.
Yeah.
That was... certainly one of the I look forward to doing Night is Shawn, but this is absolutely one of the highs of the 2000s Shawn.
I think this is the best ever night for second chapter Shawn for me. Maybe it's the months unfold and we get to do this again. That might be challenged at some point. WrestleMania 25 was amazing. It really is. But I think this is the one.
Let us know what you think is your favourite Shawn Michaels era and indeed match, something we may cover on Best Matches Ever in the future. Let us know your other non-Shawn Best Matches Ever down the line, and do so on X as well. If you want to follow us, you can get us all at WhatCulture WWE, where you can also find Michael Sidgwick at
I'm Sidgwick.
You can find me at Michael Hamflett. You can find our brilliant producer, Adam Nicholas, at...
It's Adam Nicholas.
And until next time, we will see you soon.